Hello everyone and welcome back for the 12th and final week overview for English 1510A1217. I would like to first and foremost extend my sincerest thanks to 16 of the 24 students on roster. I believe 24 is the number that completed everything, kept up with the work, despite some hiccups here and there for some of you too. Made it over the hump and got the work done. I have a couple more things to post for students for rhetorical analysis. Most of those were good. The students just slipped into second person, things on those. I have a few of you who might want to do the rewrite on here. I think I have two more to post that final grade on this, and I'm working with you guys on anybody who does want to do those. I don't see it making a huge difference on grades for those ones. Most of the students who finished all their work this term got at least a 21 out of 25 out of the final on the memoir. Matter of fact, I think the class average on completed files was 23 out of 25. So I leave that up to you guys. You have till the 28th to actually submit those in. Remember that everyone was required to have at least one tutoring session this semester through the ASC. No, I'm not going to go through that again right now. I had two students messaging me about where this is accessible and how to get into the library databases. Guys, those overview videos are posted all throughout these weeks. And starting with the one that was posted like this a week and a half before this class started, there was a video with all these instructions here that included all that content. And then these first several weeks in these overview videos, I went through all that, and those were launched on Monday at the beginning of every week. If you didn't watch those then, you're certainly not going back and doing it now, and you're not going to have your professors through college taking you through the content in week 12 that they covered in weeks 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I believe for you guys, I touch base on that almost every week about the tutoring. Those are under these links here under student services. You can utilize those things or not, but this was required for everybody. I have several of you who already did complete these. Remember, even the one required got you extra credit, and then everyone after that got you extra credit. I made many recommendations to students at the start of the term for YTR 2s and 3s. And that is additional extra credit as we go. If you didn't complete the required one, it's a detraction of points in the attendance and participation at the end of the semester, that category. So if you did it, it's not an even grade, it's an extra credit point just for having doing the one required. If you don't do it, it's a detraction. The memoirs, as I said, students, I leave that up to you as to whether or not you want to do one. If you are in a 21, 20, 19 out of 25 category, I think it's something to consider about doing the rewrite. You'd look at your comments and corrections on the summary and outline and on the rough draft. For the memoirs, I didn't mark anything additional that wasn't beyond what you had there. So if you're going to do those, the people who are 21 or lower on those, I think, might benefit from a rewrite. 22 and up, I don't know that especially if you've done this, it's not going to make much of a difference on the grade. The extra credit would already nullify that if you did enough of those. I do have some of you who have a number of them. Great job on those. If you are a student who wants to be considered for a WS grade, now this is not a given, this is a request. This includes ChatGPT students. I want to repeat with this. For students who have made cases about ChatGPT, remember, we're not dealing with this in face-to-face. We're dealing with this overwhelmingly online, and we've had 100% confirmation, meaning being able to trace the files, the origins, all those things, and creation, and having students absolutely admitting that they did these things. And this has been consistent now for 2 years. So most of us, I think, for the summer, we're changing a number of things again with assignments to make sure that we weed these out, including many people at the school arguing for the zero tolerance policy, which just means the first time it's flagged, it goes to administration, goes on permanent record, and the student can try and work that out with administration. It's not something any of us want to do, but too many students in the online environment are doing this repeatedly. In the online environment, have overwhelming of these, and students I have 2 students who have since submitted more ChatGPTs out of the 7 I think I have from this one online class, not to mention others. I had out of 17 cases, I think almost all except 2 or 3 ended up being in a face-to-face environment. But I had students requesting for a WS after further citation and violation of those things. Again, this is not a given. The 0 in a second violation, the process is to move it forward to administration. Okay, it's a 0 in the course, not just the assignment. On a second and third violation, if it's a second violation and students won't sit for in-person writing and whatever else, that's not something you get to then ask for a WS and then try this again another semester with another instructor. Academic integrity must be upheld. Okay, so it's not a given that students would get a WS on this to bow out of a violation on academic honesty issues. I have, in my online classes right now, nothing in face-to-face, but in online, I have repeat violations of ChatGPT, generative AI, and I also have a couple of students who did not do generative AI, but after doing generative AI have parts on either rhetorical analysis or the research piece or both, have things that were flagged for originality, meaning that it matches word for word other online sources. In other words, plagiarized files. Not saying anybody in particular in here has that scenario, but please note the request for WS, this is for students who have completed most of the work, have for whatever reason throughout the semester, or have completed some of the work and have had discussion with me as the instructor. Your professor of the class gets to make the decision on this. It's an instructor initiated or faculty initiated mark. Okay, so note on this, guys, the WS grade on here, yes, you can make the request for processing on these, and if it's any situation that I can justify, you know, there was something that came up that you just, even if it was, I have a couple of students who have requested these this semester and last semester just because of going through emotional things that really took them out of their headspace for the class and being productive and things. That's completely acceptable as far as I'm concerned, and I can process that. And with the ChatGPT, I can also justify for a few of the students that I had discussions with, I may still grant it on grounds that, you know, whatever happened, you didn't have time to address all the things. I could justify it there, but it's not a given on those. It is a case-by-case basis on those. All right, so in any event, I think most of you students saw this, and this worked out well with the extension on here. Everybody's summary and working thesis, primary points of support, and works cited pages, those were all graded and fed back to students, posted with feedback, audio on most of those. And then I think the only thing outstanding for a few students is the rhetorical analysis or the rhetorical analysis components. But again, because of the lapse there in the middle of the semester, most of you guys, I'm giving you, if not all, then nearly all the credit for submission base. And I made comments and told you about things that were incorrect there. But on the final drafts, if they still did have those errors, but you weren't able to address them because you didn't have a feedback file from me, I didn't take further points away. As a matter of fact, most of you have a final draft that still has more points than the summary outline and rough draft because of that very issue. All right, so that ends up being a wash or a positive for most of the students in the class. It actually ended up bumping you probably a little bit more than it would have been in other circumstances. So the end of the semester here, guys, watch for my feedback on the outline. I should be able to get everybody's back in the next couple of days on here. And the essay itself, the research paper, remember the abstract now on this. When you're doing the formatting of these, just make sure you're following all of these instructions and guidelines here, including quote formatting. Remember that you've read through those over. With quote forming, you're making a claim, you're using a quote to support it, then you're explaining it the same way you did on the outline. And when it comes to the content on these, make sure you're watching these overview videos. And remember that, you know, here's a student sample research paper that's in this one. Note the framing of this: MLA format, last name and page number, first name and last name of student, the professor of the class itself, the date, the title. Everything is double spaced, no addition. You are giving the title that you give to your topic. You're making it yourself. And on the draft, now the paper that you're submitting, when the outline had the abstract at the end, that's because you can't write an abstract until you've completed your research. Now this gets moved to the front. And now in this framing, guys, now we have subheadings. So you have a heading up here, you have your title, subheadings are justified to the left margin. Guys, if you're going to make them bold, they don't have to be bold. I let this student did this on this one. Make them bold after you've completed the whole thing, but you'll note that the subheading is justified to the left margin with a colon, and then your paragraphs are still tabbed over. So you have your abstract, you have the introduction, the student has body 1, body 2, body 3, and the conclusion. Have edits in here. This is not in total, guys, and it's not perfect, but it's a good student paper. Works cited on here, you'll see that this student doesn't have DOI with everything. One didn't exist for this first entry. The third entry on here didn't have one. I believe this was a book. Yeah, it's a book on there. The other ones do have the DOIs. Most of yours right now this term should have the DOI, so make sure those are all correctly formatted. You have to have at least the 10 that were cited for your work that you submitted. I look forward to seeing those folks. And again, for those of you who, my core students who did everything, got everything in time, you did do good work. You did progress all semester long. I appreciate you, the patience. I'm still not 100%. I don't know that I'm going to get past the respiratory thing for a while yet, but it is improving. And to those of you in here who are also dealing with some similar health issues this semester and a couple of other unforeseen circumstances, I wish you the best, everyone. Good term. I hope to see you again in the future for those of you who did complete through here, and best of luck for the remainder at OCC.